All right, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in today. My name is Kyle Groves. I am an EIT with ATG USA, Civil Technical Specialist, and today I am really excited to talk to you about one of the Civil Express tools from CTC Software. We're going to be using this to do some sheet generation inside Civil 3D. So the problem that we're trying to tackle today is we want to create plan and profile sheets. Civil 3D does give us a way to do this out of the box. That tool is called the view frame group. However, after we get these created, our project changes may require us starting over for the output sheet drawings. Because once we create those layout drawings using view frame groups, it's really good at that, we can't edit them in any sort of a dynamic fashion. That's all got to be manual. Possibly even to the full manual creation of a plan and profile if we get extra layouts thrown in there. And the way that we're going to get around this is we're going to use the sheet generator tool in the Sim project suite from CTC Software. Sheet generator utilizes simple blocks to dynamically define plan and profile viewports, and it'll update them for us, even after we've created the sheet. So we get to go from model space and push those changes all the way through to plan and layout. Another note about today, this is a workflow. So we're not just here to give you one video on a little widget that's just one button long. We're going to go over and we're basically going to look at the payoff. So there's more content than the 30 minutes we're going to talk for today, but we're just going to give you the overview of the tool and show you why we think you should care. And why is this tool different? Well, as I just mentioned, it's not just a button, it's a whole workflow with a variety of commands that contribute toward the end result. The other thing that is different is view frames. That's the native out-of-the-box tool. Those can create layouts. But the view shapes, what we're calling for this new tool, will create those layouts for us and will also allow us to edit them. When we're creating these objects and how we're manipulating them in the drawing is through AutoCAD objects. We're using polylines, blocks, and a variety of layer assignments to get this done. So we're using simple objects that pretty much everybody knows how to manipulate when we need to. And this allows us to work across referenced project drawings. So through data references and X references, this is going to share the information that we need into our plan sheets. Lastly, this is going to update all of our sheets and our layouts at any point during a project, and we'll see how that works by the time we get to the end here. So we do need some content to get this workflow in. That is going to consist of blocks. Those are how we're defining the major categories of our information. We're going to have some layers that we need to pay attention to. And we also need to make heavy use of references. That includes XREFing and derefing anything inside of our drawing once we get to the point where we're creating sheets. Because just like view frames, we're going to create new drawings, and we don't want to create copies of our master objects. We only want to look at them and keep bringing them through into our new drawings as those are being referenced. So again, we want to avoid those live Civil 3D objects. So with that overview, let's go ahead and get into the software. So this is our site. We've got a rural road running through the middle of the country, and it's time to put in some utilities on one side of that roadway. So I've already got in here. I've got my Civil 3D surface. I've got my Civil 3D alignment. I've got a pipe network in here, and I've already gone ahead and it's looking great inside my profile view. I was even able to create a little drop surface to make sure I've got my bury depth all good to go. And it is time to move forward toward sheet creation. So what we're going to do is we're going to be working in this file that we're calling XREF view shapes. And this is just illustrative of today. But basically what we're going to do is we're just going to create a new file based off of our civil template. And I've already got that open. I've got a couple files I'm just going to step through today. We don't need to bother going through and waiting for the software to do everything for us. So this is my file created based off of my civil template. I have already got ahead and data referenced in all of my objects. And it's time to go ahead and run the tool. So up here in the Sim Project Suite ribbon, we've got our sheet generator panel, and we're pretty much going to be moving from left to right here. Our first step is to get our plan view shapes put together. And with this, we've got this dialog box that's going to say, hey, first step, we need to create our alignment. We need to specify our station range. We do need to make sure that our scales are set up correctly. This will read dynamically. And I do know that I want to go for a 20 scale. So I just changed that in the drawing and we're here. Just like with our plan and profile creation through the out-of-the-box view frames tool, we do have a variety of settings we can choose. Do we want these to be centered? Do we want a little bit of offset? I'm not going to spend a ton of time in today's presentation going over the nitty-gritty of these dialogues because I want to show you what this tool can do and why we think it's important. So to that, what is important is making sure that we have our blocks and our layer assignment set up correctly. So these blocks we will see in a little bit, but effectively, this is a block that's defined in our layout as having the correct dimensions for how things are going to read, just like with our layouts for the view frame group. So we've got a print area block for plan, and we'll also have one for profile. Inside our drawing, the tool is going to create these and it's going to assign it to a specific layer. Now I've got these all on G layers for my annotation and my plotting, and I've got this layer in all of my templates in all of my drawings because I need to be able to reference it everywhere. And it's just view shape, plan, print area. It's standard NCS style notation for those. And what it's going to do is the tool is going to say, all right, I've seen all this information. How much distance can I go between my match lines? Here's my maximum value, but that's not very round or nice or even. So I'm going to say 400, and we will round station to the nearest 100. It is important. We do want to do our best to avoid alignment vertices. If we have a bend, if we have a curve, we don't want to miss any information. So this buffer will help us avoid that. And the cool thing that we're going to get out of this is this thing called a view shape. So the view shape is the result of our overlapping print area blocks that have been trimmed at the match line, at least when we have these stations. And then again, we want to make sure this is all going on the correct layer. So we've got our print area, that's the master, and we've got our view shape, which is the reduced area based off of that. Our drafting guides are going to represent a draft of our match lines inside the drawing. And we can pick these, we can specify or create a brand new layer if we have to. Definitely a great idea to get those drafting guides put in and put them on their own layer. When I run finish here, I'm going to see a bunch of things show up on my screen. So based on the way I have this drawing set up right now, I have what looks relatively similar to the out-of-the-box view frames. I've got the area of something showing me where my printing is going to be. I've got another object that's very close to the out-of-the-box match line, but I've actually got an additional third object, which is representing my actual print area. So these yellows, these are our match lines. These greens, this is that block reference. So this is my print area block, and it's been blown up by my drawing scale to show me exactly how much area I could fit in at a maximum on any given layout. But then the tool has gone ahead and said, all right, based on the start and end of my view shape, where would that be trimmed in relation to my drafting guide or my match line? And this is what we're left with. So this is what we're actually going to print based off of what we can print. And notice too that since I said round it to a whole elevation, round it to the nearest 100 station feet, all of these drafting guides and therefore all of my printable areas are going to land on whatever interval I specified. We're going to modify this later on, and we'll prove that those do indeed update. But there's some of these that I'm not very happy with, and I can go through and I can change these manually. So for example, as I'm coming around this curve here, I don't have a whole lot going on the northeast side. Well, it's as simple as using AutoCAD commands on these AutoCAD objects. So I'm going to rotate this one, and I'm going to use my parent intersect to keep my two view frames on top of each other and get some extra plan space in here. And now at this point, I could go through, I could move the rest of these up, and then float this one around just to make sure that I'm getting good coverage on all of them. Now at this point, I would have to manually update my match lines to just make sure that I'm getting good coverage across. But as soon as I get done with basic adding, removal of vertices, using O snaps, once I get all this stuff done, then I'm going to be left with a really nice looking plan area. So it's just that simple. Add vertices, move vertices, rotate, trim, or not so much trim, but add, remove vertices, rotate, align, use your reference points. We're going to skip forward to this all being done and put together. And notice that I don't have any of my view shapes, these polylines, they're not overlapping past the match line. That's our real goal, is to just make sure that one sheet is inside its master boundary and also trimmed by our match lines. And then once we've got that all set up, we are done with this file. And just like a traditional workflow where we are creating our plan and profile sheets, we're going to create a third file, and this is going to be our sheet drawing. We're going to do as little as possible inside that drawing because it's going to be used as the base for everything else. So if I create a new drawing based off of my sheet template, I need to create my data references. And we also need to make sure that we have our profiles data referenced in here too. It makes sense to go find my stuff. And then we're going to use an XREF to bring in our view shapes. We want to make sure this is an overlay, not an attachment. And now we can see that everything's coming in here. So it is time to go ahead and create our profile views, which is the next command up here. This is just a clone of the out-of-the-box create multiple profile views dialog, but the key thing here is that we're getting out of the native stuff as much as possible. When we're working through this workflow, we're just using the commands that we need as part of it, and they're all written up here in the CUI for the ribbon tab. It's important to note that when we create these, we want to choose a station range for each profile view that we know is going to be a little bit smaller. This is going to give us extra profile views, which means we can get rid of the ones we don't need later on, but it's really frustrating, or it can be very frustrating to come back and add these in later. So err on the side of shorter, giving us a higher quantity of them. For our profile view height, we'll just stick with these defaults. Want to make sure we're going with the mean elevation to kind of help capture all of that. I have not yet brought in my pipe and pressure network, and that's okay. I don't want to add these through this command. It's going to slow down my drawing a lot. Plus, we have a tool that's going to bulk add them for us anyway. Throw in any data bands you might want. And the other key thing here is the multiple plot options. I'm going to choose a stupid high number. I'm going to go by column and top down. When I create my profile views, they're just going to come on in. But this doesn't look very nice. I've got 300-foot profile views, and that's not how I set this up. So what I need to do is I need to actually update or adjust all of my profile views, which is the next button in here. So with the adjustment of profile views, you're almost always going to want to choose all of them. And then we get to say, all right, first up, we need to now talk with these profile views to those objects we just created in our viewshapes xref file. So what we need to do is we need to go choose that layer. I'm going to use the list because it's pretty easy to find what I'm looking for. And the view shape is going to be my viewshape plan viewshape layer. And I want to just go ahead and say, hey, first viewshape at the low station, that's going to correspond to the low station of my profile views. I can add in some buffers, and I can also center this based on some objects. So I will center on object using my surface profiles, and I'm going to change this to a profile view height of 50 from that default 100 that I started with. It's giving me a warning, though, that from station 3000 onward, there are no view shapes that correspond. Well, that's because there aren't any view shapes there, and I don't actually need these. So I'm just going to say yes, and we'll see that it's pretty easy to find out which ones I'm not using because they're going to be shorter and at the bottom of the list compared to the rest of everything else. So I can now, if I'm pretty confident I'm not going to use these later, go ahead and just delete the profile views, not the profiles themselves. Do note that when we created our multiple profile views, since we forgot to go into the profile data, when we create these, there's a column for labels. Switch that to none for your existing. I forgot, so we'll see in the other files that that'll filter out. But we need to also make sure we get our pipe network in here. So I can create that data reference later, as I mentioned previously. Use the right parts list. And at this time, I seem to actually be missing this command from the ribbon. So what we want is update profile view parts is the actual command name. And again, we're going to say all profile views. And then it needs a maximum distance away from the alignment. So this is a pretty narrow 2-lane road. I could set this at 13, 14, 15 feet. I'll use 25 because I'm not too worried about bringing in anything else. And even if you're not going to use the sheet generator tool, this is a pretty neat command to just go ahead and throw all of your profile views and add in your pipe networks. But since this is a little wonky, I'll need to adjust those one more time. And I can also tell it to look for my pipe networks when it's centering on these objects. So, little update, and now I should have pretty much everything in here. I can see that my exaggeration is a little bit off, and I'm going to confirm that here in a moment. But just like with my plan view, I went through, I said, this is the data that I'm interested in. That was my alignment and such. And then I went and I created my plan view shapes based off of my print area block. Well, our profiles have the exact same thing going on, which is our profile view shapes. When we launch the profile view shapes, again, we want to make sure we grab them all. And we have a variety of options for positioning these. We can base them off of an alignment or a match line and so on. I'm just going to use the centered option to keep things simple for today. But we also need to make sure we're correctly specifying now our profile view shapes, area blocks, and their layers. So I've got my view shape profile view shape, good. View shape profile print area, that's the layer that my profile block is going on. Everything looks great. It's reading my drawing scale. My plan was 20, my profile's 20. that all looks great. I'm not going to worry about the mask right now. That's more of an aesthetic thing. And I now have my view shapes, but it looks like my profiles are really tall for based on how this is going to work out. So I have some more modifications that I would need to go through to make sure that I'm going to fit everything inside my plan area. And this is all the space that I get based off of those blocks. But you may be asking yourself, Kyle, where did those blocks come from? Well, they need to be defined in your drawing, but specifically in our sheet drawing, what we need to have is we need to have a layout who is defined by not viewports, but rather our block references. So on top, this is my plan area, print area block, and the lower is my profile print area block. So just like with the view frames, when I tell a particular viewport in my template, hey, you're a plan viewport, hey, you're a profile viewport, I've gone ahead and I've defined that same information. It would also behoove you to have a north arrow block and somewhere on top of your plan area so that this is going to come in dynamic and rotated, just like the out-of-the-box tool does for us. But only this one, I think, is going to work a little bit better. So no viewports in this layout, just the blocks. So I'm going to go ahead and delete the other ones out of here so that I'm only left with my model space and my template for everything else. So with this, I'm going to skip ahead. This would be saved. This is my sheet base drawing, but we're going to go check out what this is going to look like after I've made those updates to my profile view. So I was able to change my profile views around. I decreased my vertical exaggeration. This is just 2 times. It was 10 times previously. But that's what I got to do to make it fit in here. If for some reason your views change, we can go back and we can recreate these profile view shapes, and they're going to move on along with us. So select all of my profile views, and it already knows the settings that I used previously, so it's going to just bring that right on top and recenter over it. So the tool is reading my drawing objects, and it is going to make sure that I only have as many as I need, and they're positioned correctly based off of everything else. So now that we've got our plan shapes, we've got our profile view shapes, we've adjusted our profile views, and we've created them, it's time to actually go ahead and create our layouts. And just like with the out-of-the-box, we have to save before we can continue. This is going to create XREFs for us. This is going to create data references for us. And we're pretty much just going through and confirming, what's my alignment? Where are my view shapes pointing to in plan? Notice that since this is XREF, I have to be looking at the XREF layer version of this object, not the one inside my drawing. Plan print area, same thing, it's the XREF. Profiles, those do live here. Here's a list confirming exactly where all of my views are and where my view shapes are. And I get to use a north arrow block. I'm going to skip the match line part for now. And if we do, we have a variety of options of where exactly that's going to go. And then I need to assign my layout to duplicate. I already deleted the rest of those out, and there's a misnomer that's supposed to be a 20 scale. But same thing, layouts per drawing. What's your naming template? Just like with the out-of-the-box, we have a few different fields we can throw in here. You can add string values to keep the same thing, like plan and profile. This won't update because I've already got those sheets created, didn't want to waste the time on the webinar. And as well, how are we going to get our new drawing done? We have to correspond this to a sheet template, or sorry, a sheet set, however. So I've already pointed to that. That's in my sheets folder. This is where all my sheets are going to live. We'll sneak peek at the ones that I've already created for us. So that's all done. You hit finish, and it's going to go through and it's going to update those drawings. And then your sheet set's going to pop up, and I can go in and I can check these out. And looks like my association was lost. So I'm actually going to go through and create those, and if necessary, we can speed this up for the YouTube repost. So with this again, we are just creating some polylines and some blocks, or rather, we're not, the tool is. Creating polylines and blocks, and this is information that's being shared across my XRefs. I don't have to have everything live in the same drawing. Also, too, we want to really make sure that we don't have the original copy of our objects in the drawing we're going to use to create the rest of these. So pretty much up until this point, though, we've been doing stuff that we can do anyway. The view frames, those can create drawings and layouts for us. But as soon as I get done here, I'm going to show us a few things for how we can go through and how we can update it, and how this tool is going to surpass the out-of-the-box view frames. So with that, we're just going to speed up here. All right, so we've created our sheet plans, or our sheets in here, and these were the ones that were not associated. And I'm going to open up one of our new drawings. And we'll see that I specified, hey, we've got two drawings per layout, or sorry, two layouts per DWG. And in these new files, two layouts per DWG, it's got our station and offset in them, and I've got my plan view. And I can see that everything's being trimmed based off of my guides. It might be helpful to throw those guides on a no plot layer, because I can see them through here on my plan view, but we've got sheets. So let's go back and let's see what happens when we make some changes. So my view shapes, initially I was through here. Our projects can change. And so if I add a few extra station feet to my alignment, maybe not enough to trigger a whole new drawing or a whole other layout, but enough to make sure that things can change. So I've got a new civil base file. I've gone ahead, I've changed that update, thrown in some extra stationing early on in my alignment. Just a few little kinks before station foot 2000. And then I can also go ahead and show you what it would look like to go through and create new view shapes. Just clear out some of these drawings, keep things running smooth. So I'm using a second drawing. This is not necessarily that you would use a second drawing in your practical workflow. I just didn't want to go through the picks and clicks of creating all of this. But basically, when we create new plan view shapes based off of this alignment, we can go through, we can say, hey, give me 20 scale instead of, or sorry, maybe you want to change your scale. Maybe you want to change your distance between match lines. So this is an opportunity to say, hey, we're going to go 300 feet, and I want to round to the nearest 25 is how I got this done. So I would have gone through the rest of this, and I've already cleaned that up. We can see we have a lot more match lines in this drawing. And in my sheet file, we would save that original file, we would update our X references, and we can see how this is all coming in here. And we need to adjust our profile views because we're now looking at different sized view shapes for our plan. So with this, we go through, confirm that our layers are all still the same. And when we run this auto select off the first view shape, I can see that my profile views are only about 300 feet long, and they are not all ending or beginning at the 100-foot station. So these have updated based off of my new view frames. The next thing that I will want to make sure that I do is confirm the view shapes are all correct. So rerun the profile view shapes command. We'll recenter those. So we're at a branch point right here. In this case, I had a ton of new layouts being created. This is the point where I would just want to create a brand new set of layouts based off of all of those, because I would have to create more profile views manually, and that would take some time. But if we were just looking at the case where I had a few extra station feet, and that's all I was trying to update, and I haven't changed how many drawings I have or how many layouts I have in my drawing, then I can go ahead and open up one of my sheet drawings, and we'll show us how to update these based off of our new plan information. So we'll go to the 800/600 file. Although that was silly of me, I should have used the sheet manager to get there, or sheet set manager. And we can trigger those new view shapes. In my case, I'm simply going to repath to my XREF to get those extra ones in there. And in this file, all I have to do is adjust my profiles. It's going to read those first view shapes for a file. There's my 900/1125 and my, 900/1200 and 1200/1600. And when I go to update, profile view shapes, all profile views, get my new shapes, and then I go to update the layouts, it has to change, save. And here, confirm, we want to use this all drawings button because not everything is live. We've got these XREFs. We're confirming our print area blocks. We're confirming their layers, plan and profile alike. If we wanted to, we could throw in match line blocks if we forgot that before. And I don't have one in here, so we'll skip that for now. And I didn't get my view shapes correct. So with this, it's pretty cool because it will look into your blocks, not only in your current drawing, but also in your XREF. So I need to go find my XREF plan profile, plan print area block. And then when I go and find that, when I see this list of sheets, it's going to update that for me. And now my new plan and profile sheets have been updated, although it looks like I specified incorrectly for that second one, but this first one, when I did successfully link up my profile view and my plan print area block, my viewports have updated for me automatically. So There is another function in here where we can move objects around on our profile views. It's called Move on Profiles. So if I do have labels for something that I'm trying to run, and I'll just do a quick mliter. With this mliter, it's looking at around station 1400. With this move on profile views, if I have to kick something off, move it over, or maybe even kick it onto another profile view, I can enter in a station offset. I'll do plus 100, skip the elevation offset, but it has automatically moved on 100 station feet down the alignment, and my profile view is picked up on that. So we've basically written in a transparent command for specifying the station elevation of an AutoCAD-based object, and it's going to read your profile views to make sure that it ends up on the correct one. So that concludes the flyover demonstration of the sheet generator tool and workflow from CTC. So with that, let's wrap this up. So takeaways, what did we learn today? We learned that the sheet generator tool is intended to replace the view frame tool from the out-of-the-box Civil 3D, because the view frame tool is good for creating objects. It gets us there the first time, but if we have to update stuff and we want to do that in a dynamic fashion, then we can do that with the sheet generator tool. The other thing about the sheet generator tool is it's using AutoCAD-based objects. These are easy to manipulate, and we can find them across our project. We can look for blocks within our XREFs while we're trying to configure these layouts and profiles. We want to make sure that we're using proper XREF and DREF techniques. The last thing we want is to have the original copy of a Civil 3D object in our sheet drawing that we're going to make 10 copies of, because then we're not going to have good replication throughout our project. So with our sheet drawing, we want to be using DREFs and XREFs for all that info. You can update all of our sheets, the drawing sheets, or our layouts at any point during the project. So no longer do we have to worry about twiddling our thumbs at 30% of the project and saying, ooh, let me get some prelim profile sheets cut. Well, if the alignment changes at any point, then that work would have been wasted, not with sheet generator. It's a lot easier to get those recreated and updated and edited. Lastly, even if you don't like using the sheet generator tool, if you have this tool and you're using the Sim Project Suite, you get a nice little bonus where you can add pipe networks to your profile views in bulk. So with that, I want to thank you all for your attention and have a great rest of your day.